Welcome to day one of a U.S. government shutdown. There is no plan and no deal to reopen it anytime soon. So for those of you who are new to this, welcome to the party. Don't worry, I'm going to explain what comes next and how this is going to impact you. And for those of you who have been through this before, you also need to be paying attention to this video because this shutdown is unlike any other shutdown that any of us have seen in the past. Of course, the politics around this is messy. And I will address that if you want in a totally separate video. But in this video, I just want to give you the nuts and bolts of what is going to happen. Okay, so officially the U.S. government shut down at 12:01 a.m. this morning, October 1st. That means all non-essential government workers have been furloughed and non-essential government agencies and departments have all been closed. According to the White House, that means up to about 750,000 federal employees are going to be off the job. As for federal agencies and departments that are considered essential, they are still open. However, the essential federal workers at those agencies and departments must show up to work and they will not be paid until the government reopens. Now, put a pin in that idea for a second because we're going to come back to it. And this little tidbit is going to impact you. It's super important. But before we get there, let's talk about what are considered some key essential agencies and departments that are staying open. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Veterans Benefits, military operations, federal law enforcement, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, and Air Traffic Control. They will all stay open. The essential government employees who work at those agencies will all have to show up, but they will not be paid. Now, general rule of thumb is the shorter the government shutdown lasts, the less impact it will have on everyday Americans. And the longer it lasts, the more it will impact you. Of course, it impacts every federal worker immediately. But for everyone else, if this shutdown is just a few days, it shouldn't really disrupt your life. But if it lasts for more than a week, you're going to start to see some problems. Now, for the record, the last government shutdown we had was in 2018 into 2019 during the first Trump administration. That was the longest shutdown we've seen in like 40 years, and it lasted for 35 days. And those 35 days are what leads me back to this idea I told you to put a pin in. Remember I said these essential workers have to go to work and they won't get paid until the government opens back up. Well, during the last government shutdown that was 35 days, that's a long time, and it basically boils down to missing 2 paychecks. So put yourself in the shoes of these essential government workers. What if your employer said, yeah, I need you to come to work, but I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to give you a paycheck, but you still need to do your job? What happens to your bills? Do you think your landlord would just waive your rent for that month? What about your electric bill? How about your cell phone bill? See, it's a problem. Now, what happened last time was federal workers at TSA, for example, put up with the showing up to work without a paycheck for the first few days and weeks. But by the end, they were like, if you're not going to pay me, I'm just not going to show up anymore. So they started to call in sick to work, which trickled down to air travelers who were facing huge lines at the security checkpoints because lots of the TSA officers just called out sick. Now, here's another example. Remember I said Social Security is considered essential. So yes, you will get your Social Security check. However, some of the Social Security support staff at the Social Security offices are considered non-essential, so they are furloughed. That means if you want to process perhaps a new Social Security or disability claim, or if you have questions about your benefits, getting those answers will start to become very difficult as this shutdown drags on. As for SNAP benefits, those will continue for now. But if this shutdown lasts past the month of October, they may not. One more example I know will impact a lot of you. The Department of Education is furloughing about 80% of its staff. And that's on top of all of the firings we saw earlier this year. So it's slim over there already. So yes, you will still get your student aid disbursement through your Pell Grant or federal direct student loans. And yes, you can still apply to FAFSA, but you will not be able to get any kind of new grant award. And if you have questions about your student loans, answers for those questions are going to become very difficult because the support staff is all furloughed. And by the way, yes, you are still required to pay your student loans back during the government shutdown. The last important thing I want to point out, which makes this shutdown completely different than any other shutdown we've ever seen, is President Trump and his stance on all of this. Usually during a shutdown, the president wants to get federal workers paid and off the furlough as soon as possible, so there's minimal disruption to those workers' lives and the lives of the American people who rely on those government workers and agencies. But President Trump thinks about this differently. He just said yesterday he is going to use this shutdown as an opportunity to further his mission to just slash the federal workforce. He said he wants to cut vast numbers of people. So instead of furloughs, these federal workers may actually get layoff notices or they may actually be fired. He also said he's going to use this shutdown to cut programs that the Democrats like. Now, I'm not sure exactly what he means by that, but I've never heard a president say anything like that, nor have we seen a president use a shutdown to just slash the workforce.